So thank you for coming tonight. We've got the boys from Waterpro in tonight, talking about vertical gardens, but at the same time irrigation as well. So if you've got any questions throughout their speech about vertical gardens or irrigation or life, ask them. So, guys.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As mentioned, my name's Clint, and this is Matt and Reedy. We are from Waterpro, which is an irrigation store based in Kent Town. I'm not sure how much you know about, I guess, our background. I won't go too much into it because it's probably not overly relevant for what you're doing, but we are an irrigation shop, and one of the products that we sell is green walls or grow walls or whatever you guys are calling them. We are the South Australian distributor for the Atlantis product, so that's this. I guess we've tried to bring as much product as we can to an event like this. This is part of a wall, and this is an unbuilt wall, and this is a wall that's kind of been taken apart. Atlantis are an international company, Malaysian manufactured importer of grow walls into Australia and all around the world. There's distributors for each state, and then we are the South Australian distributor. And we chose this brand, and I actually I harassed the owner of the company for about 18 months to get access to this brand because we believed that it was the best product from a grow wall standpoint in the market. The majority of the walls that we sell are going into the commercial trade market, and it's this one here. But I think that the Slim Pro and the Slim might be more inside your, I guess, residential use, I guess, affordability and size, etc. But I'll go through all of them, and if you've got any questions as I'm talking, please feel free to ask. Also keeping in mind that we are an irrigation shop, and like 98 to 99% irrigation shop to not even 1% grow wall shop. So our expertise in irrigation is quite high. His is more than mine. So if you want to ask anything from why your drippers aren't dripping at home to why your sprayers are inconsistent from one end to the other to how much it costs to irrigate an oval, we can kind of do anything in between. So this is the flagship product. This is part of the flagship product. So this is a grow wall 4.5, and it's 1/6. Is that right?
Correct.
Yep. So a 4.5 kit is 18 pots, which is 0.889 of a square metre or something, the face of it. This is the most popular grow wall kit that we sell, and I would also say it's the most popular grow wall kit that you'd buy in Australia. The retail price for a 18 pot kit's about $240, and for your money you would receive the crate that the pots come in, the pots, and the geotextile membrane that sits in the pots to stop you from losing your soil media. So these are a 6.5 litre pot, which is quite large and quite desirable. Obviously you guys understand from a horticultural standpoint that your plants need soil to grow, and that at some point these plants are going to need to be potted on or to be split. When you're growing in a smaller pot, that starts to become a concern from a maintenance point of view. If you're in a commercial situation, maybe not so much for you guys because you probably enjoy spending time in your garden and the maintenance is probably part of the fun. But in a commercial situation, this is a highly sold item. A full 18 pot kit weighs about 100 kilos of these. So it's important to remember that you're going to need quite a stable structure to bolt these to. We've got a kit, we've got 1.5 kits at the shop bolted to a brick wall, and we've put a Dynabolt inside every hole. So every one of these, there's a Dynabolt holding it to the wall. We were concerned about a public safety standpoint, so we bolted it like crazy so that a human could climb it and it won't come down. I don't know if you're familiar with any of the grow walls, I guess, in the metropolitan area, but there's one of these is at the Republic. Is it still called the Republic? Yeah. Yep. Used to be called the Oriental on the corner of... Yep. If you know your walls, that's probably one of the best walls in Adelaide.
I love that.
That's this kit. So, and it's been... The Bath, yeah, the Bath's got the same in their beer garden. We know all the grow walls in all the pubs, not because we sell grow walls. But yeah, the maintenance on that, the Republic's probably not really that high. Like it's not often being kind of trimmed back and repotted. So I think there's also one on St Bernard's Road. There's a residential complex that's been built across the road. There was a Foodland. I think it would probably be Ross Trevor. There's a big one on the face of that building. That's also this kit. So if you had the space and the budget and the structure. This would be the kit that you'd go with, and then obviously we work down from there. So any questions about this one at this stage? Nothing? So this has channels inside it that can receive irrigation. So that there is a drip tube path, and it's also underneath. Now when you stick that to another one, it creates a circle for your irrigation to live. And then the next one has another circle, and the next one has another circle. So we would then, to irrigate this manifold polypipe up either side, so that's polypipe, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, we'd use 19 or 13 mil up the side, and then we'd come across each of the 6 rows and have polypipe sitting on top of each pot or across the whole lot, and then we'd punch individual drippers into each pot. So there's 18 drippers for 18 pots. I'll go into the irrigation at the end and explain what we recommend and what we do. So all of these have the same, I guess, ability to receive irrigation. So that's got channels as well. Difference being this is quite a big gap between that, and you'll find that your polypipe's going to droop once it's full of water, which you've probably seen if you've got pergolas with polypipe doing overheads for ferns or anything like that. You're going to get that drooping. You need more clips. Obviously this can't have more clips added to it because that's it. Where's this one?
Where does the excess water go?
So these all drain through each other.
Yeah, then where's it go?
If you do nothing else, it goes onto the ground. So it comes out the last pot. In a commercial situation, they'll build guttering for these. So if you had an unlimited budget and you had an installer come in and build one of these in a building, like they've got these inside lobbies of buildings in the city, they'll frame it, and then because the sides look ugly, because that's the pot's there and the plant grows there, but you've just got this plastic. So they'll frame it with either a mod wood style product, or they'll get say a Colorbond steel and fold it, and then at the bottom they'll build a gutter and then send that out somewhere.
So it doesn't recycle?
You could do that. That's completely possible. You'd then have to have a catchment tank, and you could then create a not a hydroponic, like I guess hydroponic style system, or you could go really right into it and have aquaponics and have a tank. I mean, again, you guys probably know more about that than we do. It's completely possible. You just have to send the water back up to the top and let it come back down. So these pots have holes in them, so they freely drain pot to pot to pot to pot down to the bottom. This one here, they've developed so that you can put 13 mil polypipe onto these outlets. So they could free drain through every single one. And then the bottom one, you could have 13 mil poly and run it into a drain or into a garden or somewhere that you want to put the water responsibly. You going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, whilst these have got drain holes in them, the drain holes are actually lower than the profiles at the top here. So effectively there is,
Like it'll hold some
maybe
water.
4 to 5 mil of water holding capacity that's still in there. And obviously because we use a geofabric as well, you've got a wicking effect there. So there is an allowable amount of moisture still there that you're not, I guess, free draining every single time, so you're not, I guess, you haven't got a really dry soil profile. There is actually readily available water there, especially once you've got a developed root structure. You can sort of access that a bit easier.
And the soil media, if you can put something in that's going to retain moisture, wetting agents and crystals and hydrocell. I don't know if you guys are familiar with hydrocell.
Yeah, so the medium across all of these, I guess, isn't just your standard potting mixes, and as you guys would know, not all potting mixes are the same. There's some real rubbish out there, which is just a bag of bark. And then there's some that have actually got almost too much, which is almost like a mushroom compost. It's too heavy sometimes. So it's that happy medium as far as not putting too much weight in there and getting a boggy soil, but also having enough free drain. So there is companies like Pete's and BioGrow, Jeffries that make mixes up for vertical gardens, but they do have some water holding capacities. But a lot of people tend to trial and...
We've got a client that did a perlite style, and that's working well. The good thing about, I guess, using irrigation from an irrigation shop versus a hardware shop is that we can tell you exactly how much water is going to come out of a dripper per minute, per hour, however you want to measure it. So you could actually get your system to a point where you're watering for 2.8 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever the time frame is to get the 600 mil or 400 mil that you're comfortable with per pot, so that they're watering exactly how you want them to, as regularly as you want them to, and you're not wasting water. So we'll go through, I'll talk about the drippers at the end. So yeah, questions?
You mentioned a weight. Was that
soil and pots if you were to use a potting mix, not a light media. These with the wall we did 150ml pots generally are enough soil. So if you bought a 150ml pot from a garden centre with the plant of choice, you could top up the remaining gaps in one wall with half a bag of potting mix, if that. So you generally don't need to buy any additional soil if you're buying it that way. If you tube stocked it or garden stole it or whatever, I don't know what the appropriate industry term for the group is. Borrowed. Yeah. So that's right. I remember as a youngster, my mum pulling over and borrowing plants out of people's gardens. So I think it was acceptable then. It's probably still acceptable now. Yeah, that's right. So that takes me to that one and that one. So these have got drainage. So this kit here is a hybrid. So this is the top shelf, which is the 4.5. This is a retail targeted one that they've made to try and tackle Bunnings and Holman. So Atlantis were starting to suffer, some market loss to the Bunningses and the Mitre 10s of the world with the Holman product and other low budget grow walls. And when you think about it, there's not much to these from a cost standpoint. So to be able to sell this into the market for $100 or what is this, 99 retail? That's this and it's that doubled compared to what the rest of the market were doing. This was still a challenge to sell to a retail market, and when you compared it to a $240 one of these, they weren't getting that share. So they tried to take this back as simple as possible. These are these from the tanks?
Yes.
Yeah. So Atlantis do an underground rainwater tank, and they use these crate structures as the strength, and then they wrap it with a pond liner, and so they had this as a product already, and then they then worked out that they could use these red tabs and stick them into there and hang these pots from the tabs, and these pots go inside that kit there.
Yeah, so that pot that you see there is exactly what's in the Slim Pro kits as well.
So they built the Slim and then the Pro?
The Pro
and then the Slim.
And then they stripped it back a little bit. So basically the main difference between the Slim line and then the Slim Pro is, as you can see, like this, it has a modular frame structure behind it.
What can they see?
They're sort of hanging off of
you can see that.
backing board. So this still has a structure to it, but it's a narrower, slimmer product than what these are.
You'd be getting half. So the literage of this and the literage of this are about the same, but as you can see, they're taking less, square meters of face.
So what typically to do is put a plant here and a plant here. So obviously now you've got two plants taking up what would have been only in here. So some people tend to put one in the middle, and if it's a clumping style plant, allow that to kind of just fill its pot. And it may not feel as well in the early stages, but obviously once it's taken, it's fine. So
depends on your site as well. If you've got an area outside a kitchen window that's got 800 mil of walkway, and you need to get your bins out that gap still, you don't want to go to a full. What are these? 220 more? They're 220. It's almost 300, but yeah, they're quite wide. So they created this so that you could access a higher percentage of the market, and then this Slim Pro in the middle, so that you could still have that structure, and at a lower cost than this, but as kind of as strong as this. What are these? 125?
no, about 140.
So 240, 145, 99.
Yeah, about $80.
All right. So that's a whole kit, all as one. So that's the other three pots there.
Sorry.
Sorry, so that one
Oops,
above-
sorry.
No, that
Well, I keep
one
throwing
there,
stuff at you. Sorry, that won't be the last
in
one.
middle, you don't have to have a backing one, you put it straight onto the wall.
So this here, you would build your framework. So this framework, and then you'd bolt it to a wall,
Right.
or you'd have to make some kind of structure. So if you had this in the middle of an open area, you'd have to get some galvanised steel posts or whatever you choose, frame it up, and then bolt that to the frame. This can't just sit on the ground and hold itself up.
But can that one just bolt into a brick wall?
Yes, we've done that.
Yeah, right.
They all can bolt onto brick walls. This will bolt onto a brick wall as well.
But But that one's got a backing that's not going to hurt the brick.
No, it's the same style as this.
Oh, okay.
It's just smaller. Do you want to open it up?
Yeah, so
So
all of these
the
can...
water, the moisture's not going to get into the brick? Or
No. Well,
you should put a little...
I'd be conscious of it. If you were concerned, I'd be waterproofing that wall. We haven't, because we rent.
What we tend to do is where you're dynabolting, is I get a bit of treated wood, and that's, you know, in a 25mm profile, and put that on there, and that just gives an air gap behind that brick wall as well, just allows the brick wall to fit. And if sometimes, obviously, people are wanting to, obviously from spider webs and all sorts of stuff, you just can get in behind that and actually give it a brush, whereas if it builds up against that wall, it just allows an airflow in there to stop any build up on the bricks.
And you could take them off at any time if you wanted to?
These?
Yeah, you can take anything off any time and, you know...
So-
The pots can slide in and out of that structure.
Yep.
So we have ours at our shop, which...
Ours are loose. You can come and steal our plants.
yeah,
Or borrow, sorry, I forgot. Borrow.
we did look after
So they just got like this.
So we decided to change them up, and so it was a case of just pulling down all the plants, and then we just repotted what we wanted to, had a look at the colours, and then we can just change it all up. And a lot of people tend to, you know, look at a pattern, stand back on the wall, and then say, no, I don't like that, I'll just take those out and shift it around. And if something tends to be more annual, and you want to then repot, you can just change those specific ones out. So, yeah.
The little pots, you can buy them individually as well?
These?
Yes.
I don't think we really stock them. Like, they're a code, so the manufacturer has it set up as a code, so we can order the pots. Because we've had clients interested in growing for other people. Because there's a massive market there commercially to have ready to go, really dense foliage. So,
We got customers.
what are they? $4.50 or $6 or something?
I think about 6
In that bracket.
So we've got some trades that put these in residential homes for people as landscapes or commercial jobs, and they plant them out in your own nursery first, so then they're established or somewhat established, and then they put them into the walls, and then obviously the new pot
Thinking of
comes
the-
out and they've got spares again. So.
From the perspective, if you put annuals in there or something
Yep.
like that, that you
Yeah.
can have your next lot going.
That's right. You could buy 18 pots and a kit, and then definitely. Especially if this is something that you care about. Like, obviously, as a club, you're interested in gardening. The majority of people that we sell these to put them in so that something looks pretty, and then they don't get touched again. It's just, as long as it looks pretty, the house sells or the whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because it's commercial, it's not passion. Not everyone. So this is a framework similar to that, but for these. So everything comes in this kit to build a 6-pot in that box. So it's all quite tight. So 6 of these pots in a frame in this box. So from a shipping point of view, that's quite efficient. So I won't build it, but it's quite easy, unless you want to build one. No. So you just click them all together. Click them all together. This is easier than IKEA. It makes a lot more sense.
Well, I just think you've gone for that one.
Did you want to? This one's for sale. That's convenient. Oh, Gordon, you're acting treasurer today, aren't you? Yeah, all good. Get involved. Spend the club's money. So yeah, that's it. It comes with instructions for any of the people in this room that read them. So
with the Gro-wall Slim Pro kit, which I guess from a residential point of view is what I would recommend as, I guess, a solid unit that you can put in your own homes, and it's, I guess you've got a nice frame structure that you can sort of finish it off by putting a little bit of timber or modwood sort of finishes and what have you.
that's the width of it, isn't it?
That's the width of the unit there.
So you could probably put 2 strips of timber on there.
Your pot sits out effectively a little bit beyond that.
What is it?
That clicks in.
It's not far.
Yeah. The benefit of this is these have a drain holes again, but their drain holes inside are actually towards the front. And with these, they actually drain into a drainage channel. We're a bit different to where the 4.5s, the big ones, drain straight through to the next one. These drain into a drain channel, in which case you can then rig up, I guess, almost like an irrigation system, but an actual drainage system on them, where you can have the pipes hanging off the sides and collecting any drainage water and then going away. It's been handy where we've put it over beautiful white sandstone
Travertine. Or not
pavers
travertine,
where that, as you would know, that organic water, you tend to leave quite a black stain.
I'm going to pass that over.
And that's getting away.
So that's
just had that hooked into
the water that can fall into, is it that sort?
Just allows
Yeah.
effectively
And then that's an irrigation channel there.
thing without dripping water away. We put these into cafes that have got quite a large sun window, but they didn't want to. They tackled. We could get water in through the roof, but how do we get rid of the water? So we had this pipe basically run down the bottom and hit it inside the cornice of the building, and the water just drained away. And so they were able to, I guess, have plants growing inside without water dripping like the floor.
So that trough, you said there's a trough that goes under there, so the trough takes the water just to one point.
It's coming your way. There's on the sides of it, there's actually additional holes here. So that's the trough there. You'll see that bit there. And you can run poly pipe. So that 13mm poly we've got here that I threw at someone before.
Those drain holes clip into the...
No, they just,
So that
they
fits
just hang over the top
over
of the
there.
drain.
Yeah.
And then you can manifold a drain down and catch the water.
So if you've got another one here, another one there...
You can join them all together. So that's the drain there.
Oh,
And then the water will sit in it, but then it will go into there.
yeah.
Sorry. The water will sit in it and come out
Yep.
here,
And come out.
out these ends.
Oh, two ends.
Yep, and the kit comes with plugs. So is that right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So you could plug up one whole side, and then the water will go out the other side.
Or if you didn't want to run an irrigation system, or sorry, a drainage system, you can plug them all up, and then it will effectively, that drainage channel will fill, run through its holes, go to the next pot, and then it will do the same as what the other kit does as far as draining it all through.
Yeah, that's what I would probably do, but then the bottom one...
That you just have one drain catchment,
That's right. And
Yeah.
you can make that one the drain. Yeah.
and you can send that into your garden or into a drain. I mean, ideally not into a drain. I don't think you're allowed to dump this water. You shouldn't really. Yeah, into your rainwater tank, and then filter it on the way back in. So that's, I guess, the gist of the Atlantis range. Now, you can buy any range of grow walls, I guess, from this all the way down to making them yourself from instructions on the internet from Coke bottles. Whatever you do choose to do, if you're going to irrigate it, we recommend that you irrigate with a pressure compensating non-drain dripper. So this is probably the biggest thing that gets ignored or forgotten with a grow wall. People go to all this expense and plant these beautiful expensive plants and pay all this money for this plastic and then bolt it to a wall, and that costs money as well. And then they irrigate with a dripper that's just a piece of plastic with a hole in it effectively. The drippers, this dripper here and a lot of the other drippers we've got, are a pressure compensating non-drain dripper. So pressure compensating means that it has a rubber diaphragm inside the dripper that regulates the volume of water that comes out of the water if it's being delivered at the right pressure, so that you can get that consistent litres per minute that I was referring to at the start, and then you can start timing how much water you're putting into or timing the volume of water into your pots. The non-drain refers to at a certain pressure these shut off. So when you turn the water off, the dripper closes, and any water that's remaining in that poly pipe up to 2 metres, 3 metres, completely stays inside. So your whole system stays fully charged with water. So you're trying to get 600 mils delivered to each pot, and you turn it off. If you had a non-drain dripper or a draining dripper, whatever's left in the pipe will drain out the bottom, because the dripper at the bottom doesn't have the ability to hold the water in the pipe.
Which you might see even outside of grow walls now. You irrigate a driveway that's got a slope on it. You turn that system off. Those drippers that are down the hill are still just dripping away after you turn it off. Sprinklers for lawns that are down the hill, you see them tend to leak out and drain. This non-drain feature is basically just a rubber check valve that requires a certain amount of pressure to actually turn on. Normally it's enough pressure that when you turn that tap on, that opens it up. But when it's off, if it's less than 3 metres, 3 metres or less, it'll hold and seal. So what it does, it holds all that water in the pipe and won't actually drain it all out for you. So the benefit is if you don't do that, and you guys would be used to, we sell it as well. It's the Intelco Shrubler, or
You call them an octarate. You know them as
a
an
little
octarate.
green top adjustable dripper that has the 8 outlets. They're a common product that people used to use in the vertical gardens, but every single one, depending on how many clicks you open it up, is variable flow rates. Those bottom ones, when you turn it off, as Clint was saying, will just drain and flood when in the top. So they're effectively, if that takes 3 minutes to drain out, then they've just received 3 more minutes of water than the top plants. So then you need to start thinking about, do I put a plant in there that can handle more than what the top can, instead of putting an actual pressure compensating dripper in, and it's relevant of what height your plants are at. And you can pick and choose and have the right colour profiles and all sorts.
Well, the technology's there. A lot of people, we had grow walls where people were, like, we had a guy, he was an electronic engineer, so he was overthinking it. So he had different rows on different stations, and he'd have the top one come on for a different amount of time. And he was getting down to stupid times, like 56 seconds and a minute 14. And I was just like, why don't you just buy non-drain drippers and just run them all at the same time? Because he didn't know. So I just wanted to highlight, I guess, the absolute top shelf system that you can put in. And that's what we always choose to do. And then people will then kind of pick and choose their way back down to what suits their budget and their lifestyle and their decisions and what they want to do. So if you don't use a PC non-drain dripper, then you could just use a PC dripper. And if you don't want to use that, you could just use a dripper. And then the next thing down from that is a hose or a watering can. So it doesn't really matter as long as you get water to it. But if you want to have the best available, it's a PC NJ dripper. And they're not expensive, are they?
No, I think be $1.50 a dripper.
And then you might pay $1 for a normal dripper and then 50 cents for a for an adjustable dripper. I guess even in your gardens, if you can avoid using adjustable drippers, you'll get more consistent water delivered. Most of the drip tube that you can buy now is pressure compensating. I'd say the Bunnings drip tube is not. So Holman make I think they're selling Scape Line.
Yeah, they bring out a non-pressure
drip. And the cost in drip tube is so close that it's not worth selling non-pressure compensating, because it might only cost 10% more to buy pressure compensating and you're getting a better product.
Yeah, so I guess on that, and look, you don't have to just come through to Waterpro, but I would advise you to, if you are looking at irrigation, see an irrigation dedicated shop about it, because not all polypipe is polypipe. These are made of a lot more virgin material than what's available at the hardware stores. So whilst it looks like the same stuff, it's flexibility, it's UV, longevity.
Who would be the closest out here? I mean, our shop's in Kent Town, so it's not the closest to this location. But then there's Lommans at Green Acres. Road, so. And then there's not a lot that way. I can't think of anyone. No, that's right. But I guess the reason why we say that is because we're not selly. And we'll come here and preach about the quality of products, but not because we want to sell them. Because
I'd be happy to see you guys put in from anyone a product that at least money's been spent, and you're going to spend the same money. Probably less, to be honest. Where our fittings and would be on par with other shops as well.
And these are made in Murray Bridge.
Yeah, so they're in a South Australian brand.
So is that's made in. This is made. Sorry, is this DM's? Looks like it. Yeah. So this is made in Dry Creek. And these are made in Murray Bridge. What else is there?
So we can't come out to Kent Town?
Yeah, of course you can. I'm just highlighting the fact that I'm not saying you have to. Like we welcome anyone. We're not selling.
We've got this on the wall.
Yeah, we've got a grow wall on one side.
We've got stock of all the grow walls. We've got irrigation in all the bays on the showroom floor that you can come and pick and choose and grab rolls of polypipe, and a full team of guys that can sort of help you out as well. So.
If you have a look, I mean, without referencing another fitting, it's hard to tell, but the barbs on these fittings are really quite sharp, quite defined, to the point where you could probably put polypipe on without clips and they wouldn't come out because they're so good. We still recommend you use clips, which takes me to Cobra Clamps. Now, when you're putting these grow walls in, unlike a garden, it's harder to hide the irrigation in these because you can't cover them in mulch and you don't have as much space. So we're recommending, especially because some of these are on high rise, we've got a few on big buildings, that people look at using stainless steel clamps. So you can buy plastic clamps and they're a bit bulkier, so you'll see them a lot more if they're out the side of, say, there, or you won't be able to slide your pipe through. So a lot of the times people will clip an end piece on and slide the pipe through the wall, so it'll slide through there and then the clip will be sitting just inside that. A plastic.
What happens is when it gets to that end, is that cut off then, or does it go down to the next one?
Can I write on this?
Yeah.
Have you got?
I think they take it away
Because of people like me. Because I'll write naughty words.
Depending on the size. So if you were going...
Anything in a house is going to be fine.
Yeah, household side of things, no problems at all. It doesn't need to be looped up, as far as I think that's what you're saying. Like,
Yeah,
you don't
that's
need to like go
So
through
what
and
happens
then
at
tee
the
your
end?
elbow down.
An end piece.
Just put an end plug in, and then we clip that up there, and that's fine. Bigger commercial ones like
So that.
we were talking about the Oriental, we would loop that all up just to make sure that the water's all moving through, that it's not going to struggle to get up the top run and get all the way through. At least the water's coming in sort of complete grid. But for residential stuff, you can cap. We've got ours on the wall.
Ours are end pieced,
And they're all-
but they're like, that's just one wide. So we've got it sitting like that. There's an end piece there with a clip on it. And then there's a T on this end going up to the next one, to a T, to a T, to a T, to an elbow on the last one. And then our irrigation's water's being delivered from underneath. So we've actually got video. There's a few videos. So we've got a YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, SoundCloud. We've got a podcast. There's a lot of social media around our business. On our YouTube channel, you'll find a bit of information about this. We just had Tim from Space Capsule Landscaping, Gordon. He set you up for that one. So there's a lot of videos on our YouTube of these being built, and then obviously the irrigation being installed, and then Tim doing the plants the other day.
Yeah.
So, and if you can't find, there's enough information on YouTube about this that if anything that we've said kind of doesn't make sense, you could go then watch a video and you'd be like, that's what they meant. So, or you can come and have a look at the shop if you wanted to. We're open weekends, Saturday morning. So I'll put a Cobra Clamp on to show you. Where's that end piece gone? Someone stole it.
Jordan needed one, search his pockets.
I think Gordon said he needed a T. We'll throw it in when you buy the Gro-wall. Oh, thanks. Well, Gordon was buying Gro-wall, wasn't he? We'll use black for poly, hey?
Okay.
So our Gro-wall, our Gro-wall is like that, and then obviously you've got your pot divisions. So we've got a piece of poly pipe coming up the side, and then an elbow going in there, and then you can everyone see it, and then there's an end piece. There's an end piece there, and then an elbow there, and then a T there, and a T there, and so on. I've obviously drawn these above scale because of the drawing. So if you had a really long wall, to keep your flow up, you would exclude the end piece there, and you'd have another T there, and then have another T there. So there'd be water being delivered from both sides. I think that's what you're asking. Like, do you have, was it you asking, sorry?
No. Yeah, I was asking about what happens at the end.
So you'd have water come up each side and deliver from both sides, or you just have it come up from one side. So, and that would come down to the flow available, like how much you need to get out. So on an oval, like say if we commercially, we then work out how much water can come from each end, and then this would be so a non-issue that you could just come up one side, it wouldn't be
I would say you'd want to come up both sides when you want to go to 150 plants.
wide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wide. So at that point you've moved house and you got your 4 acres,
Yeah, that's right.
Betty, can we borrow your big block of land?
Yes, you can have yes, hang on, Bob.
So is the treasurer's not here? Buy a block while they're not here. So I'll just show you this. I don't know, it's not going to be easy for everyone to sell, but these Cobra Clamps are used in agriculture and vineyards a lot because they can't, if a clip goes and they lose water, it's a lot of money. So I'm probably not going to do this very well. For someone
Marine grade 316.
for someone who owns an irrigation shop, I don't do a lot of irrigation. So that there just clips like that. And that clip is, I mean, you can't twist it. And it's quite easy to do. And this tool will remove that clip if we need to as well. So it's unlikely that residentially you're ever going to need to use these clamps. If you do, what are they? $1.40 each or something versus... So a 13mm clip might cost you 20 cents from us and 30 cents from Bunnings, and then a steel clamp will cost you $1.20 or or $1. Might even be less than that now, actually.
Yeah. But I mean, in comparison to, I guess, and this is more irrigation specific or general, sorry, but you guys might have gone, I've got too high pressure and my fittings are blowing out, so my answer is going to be to put a worm drive clamp on there and actually tighten that up with a worm drive clamp. I guess there's more to it than that, but these are another solution to that without having to actually wind them up, and then you've got this bit of steel that's going to get you with your hand or what have you. Obviously, you saw they're quite a closed off unit. Sort of not going to. We use them in schools and kindies and stuff.
Push that one in, you'll see how easy it is.
Yes, kids are running through the garden beds, and we don't want their shoes hitting the poly clip and then springing off. At least they're going to stay on there. So.
Can you push it without, just push it?
I'll push it without twisting. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's
I don't
what
have to get my thumb
that's what
stuck with
happens
the
when you
hot water.
buy. So that's not soft. And that's South Australian poly. That's why. So I'm just conscious of time. We're at 8:12 or 8:13 at the moment. All right.
Probably from a irrigation point of view, one more important thing to this is, and this is for all drip systems, would be pressure regulation. These strippers, as Clint said, were pressure compensating, meaning regardless of whether they're at the end of the line or at the start of the line, they're going to deliver the set flow rate that they're designed to, so 2 litres, 4 litres, 8 litres per hour, depending on the model you buy. Pressure regulation is done at the valve or at the tap, at the water source side of things. It's a big, I guess, overlooked thing traditionally, where people tend to just crack the tap on and just that's enough. Whereas ideally you want that tap as much as you can, because the idea is you want to get flow out, and flow is different to pressure. So we want to get as much water down that line as we can, but at a nice, safe pressure that's not going to blow fittings and drippers out of the pipe and that. So you can use a inline pressure regulator, and that can be as simple they're basically a little 20mm.
Well, they sell them at Bunnings.
And
You can buy them.
at Bunnings as well. They're just either a male-female or female-female threaded little cylinder, and you just screw them onto the tap and then go out to your poly pipe from there. It just regulates the downstream pressure to protect your poly pipe.
So poly pipes are rated to 350 or 400 kPa. A lot of areas, older areas, can get 1,000 or 800 kPa of water being delivered, and then when that happens, the pressure compensating mainly the pressure compensating nature of the dripper won't work because there's too much pressure coming in. So for these to ensure that they're delivering 2 or 3 litres per hour, they need to be receiving, say, 150 to 220 kilopascals of pressure at whatever flow. It doesn't matter how much water per minute's coming through, it just has to be coming through at X kPa or X PSI.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Because we've got very low flow pressure.
Good pressure.
We haven't got good pressure.
Yeah, so you'd have high flow, like you could open up a hose and fill up a bucket in 10 seconds, but the sprinklers won't all spray, kind of thing. Yeah, so you don't have very good pressure.
When you've got really low pressure like that, you may not require a pressure regulator.
Yeah.
But then you need to make sure that you've got enough flow, and this is where we can look after you from a calculation point of view. That I'll just throw numbers in the air here, but if we said, this is the wall we're looking at doing, we want to vertical garden that whole wall over there, and that's going to require, to do that, it's going to require 30 litres a minute. When we do a test at your tap, and you're only getting 20 litres a minute, we're just not going to be able to water all of those there. So what we need to then do is go, well, let's water half the wall. So we're only 15 and 15, or we can break that up. So that's where flow will come into it, but your pressure's low enough that it's not an issue. Sometimes if the pressure's too high, you see fittings blowing, and people tend to put hose clamps on
What suburb?
to protect it. But
Salisbury Park.
Okay, that's odd.
That's nice pressure.
Then there's something going on external. Yeah, it could be that. It could be that there's galvanised pipes that are full of rust. It could be that your water meter needs to be replaced.
have you recently had a hot water service put in? No?
So the reason I ask is because Morphett Vale, which I didn't guess you'd be from, but Charles Sturt area as well, have really low pressure to the point where some parks can't be irrigated. Like public parks can't be irrigated because there's not enough pressure for the sprinklers to operate. It's a symptom of the urban sprawl and multiple houses being added to single blocks, and more water getting, I guess it's like they're taking the tiniest of veins, you know, a kilometre further than the body could handle and trying to get water out there. So all new areas are obviously getting larger, I guess, arterials, and then they're breaking off with they're master planning better. So all the new areas, it's okay if they're not a new area in an old area. So as you'll see, say Lightsview is being built as a new area in an old area, it may not have the infrastructure to handle it. So you might be suffering from something similar because you've got new houses being built all around you, but not your street, or there's a rubber in your water meter that's blocked. It could be something really simple. So I don't know if you're allowed to do it, but there have been circumstances where you can remove a part from your water meter that will allow more pressure to come through. I'm not sure if it's legal, so I'm not recommending you do it, but I think breaking the law is a lot higher than tea.
Are the cameras still rolling?
Yeah, that's all right. I control the edit, so it's okay. But we had a job that job that I was referring to out at Morford Vale. That was the first thing we looked at is the water meter. So we went as far back as we could and tested the pressure and flow. So a pressure versus flow test can be performed using a pressure gauge on a fitting and a hose, and you connect it to your tap and you open up the water and you watch the gauge until it gets to whatever number we're looking for, so 2 or 3 or 400 kPa, and then we fill up a bucket and time how long that bucket takes to fill up. So if it's 9 litres in 9 seconds, then we've got 60 litres a minute. And then if it's 18 seconds, it's 30 litres a minute. And then if it's 36 seconds, we're talking like 9 litres a minute. Once we get below 12 to 15 litres a minute, you're getting into the kind of realms of call SA Water and complain. So I'd expect you to have 20 to 30 litres a minute in most houses.
Northern suburbs,
Yeah.
So we turn on the tap full.
Yep, stick a bucket underneath it
Put underneath
and time it
and time it till it fills up to 10 litres.
to whatever the litres on the bucket is. So you might be a 20 litre, it might be a 5 litre, but they're timed that,
Time that.
and then you just do the maths. So 5 litres in X minute, in X seconds, and then you work out how many of those go into a minute, and that's how many. Do you know what I mean? So, but the pressure's the difference. The pressure's the key. You need to use a pressure gauge to measure your pressure. So that's a bit harder. We've got a pressure gauge that we lend out so that people can do that. It depends if you're concerned enough that you wanted to look at it. So
Frustrating. Gordon's done all these drippers and got them going everywhere you turn on, and those couple come on, and the end of the line doesn't come on.
Gordon's probably overloaded the system. It's probably Gordon's fault. Oh, sorry. Oh, you're the worker bee, so you're just doing what you're told. I get it. So yeah, keep in mind. So you need to know, and that's the great thing. So as we said, professional irrigation shops over hardware shops. You can go there. Everything that a professional irrigation shop has been tested in a factory to determine how much water it delivers in a certain amount of time. So then you can go, okay, a dripper is meant to, like, if you might just have 20% more drippers on your line than you should have. So you need to split it in half, or use lower flow drippers and water for longer. So instead of...
It's amazing how quickly just those little, like those Opta 8 drippers we were talking about that put out the streams, whilst looking at one doesn't seem like a lot of water. When you actually stop and calculate, actually I've got 50 of these now on a run, running off of 13 mil or 19 mil polypipe, and you add it all up and you go, that's 25 litres a minute. And then you do that bucket test and you go, well, I've only got 26, 27 litres a minute. Well, you're flat out on your tap.
So if anything happens in your house while that's operating as well, that takes water. If your neighbours, if you're irrigating during the morning shower period, then that affects your irrigation, and there's so many factors. So, because you remember, you're sharing the water with the community. You don't feel like it because it all comes out about the same, but the pressures and flows will change from time to time. I mean, if it's frustrating for you, imagine trying to design an oval for a council with no water, or a new hockey pitch. I mean, Charles Sturt are putting in underground concrete tanks, filling them up with water and pumping it out and just cycling like that. And they're paying for the electricity to pump water that should be flowing anyway. So, any other questions? I'm conscious of time. I know that you guys are probably...
Just one is regarding your wall, just as a matter of throwing it in here.
Yep.
A fence.
Yep.
You're talking about putting it on a structure.
Yep.
Is a normal fence strong enough?
Unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unlikely,
Colorbond,
obviously,
so-
Colorbond fence has got a 50 mil square gout posts
Yes.
that are spaced at 1.8 apart or
Something like
2.4 apart or what have you.
Yeah, 2.4.
Yeah, 2.4 apart. So what we recommend there is it's okay to use those as I guess a helping aid to that, but what we want to do is then bring framework on a 45 off of those posts and then bolt saddles across as well to actually give some sort of level of structure.
Or put more poles in.
Yeah, like put more poles in and that sort of stuff. I guess what people have done, if they've got the, let's say the ugly side of the fence, which is the pole side of the fence,
Yeah,
so
that's right.
you can put another structure in front of that, or we've had people where they just have a tradesman come out and just weld strengthening to that, ready for you to come along and just build your structure.
It's hard because you don't want to go into the expense of paying for an engineer to engineer it. So you just kind of have to get a good idea of what it can hold. You think about, I guess, if that completely loaded is 100 kilos, you might be able to put it on the ground and then use the wall to stop it from falling over, or the fence, because then the ground's actually holding the majority of the weight. But if you've got children in the area, would you feel comfortable? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So that's the kind of test I'd go with. Like, would you feel happy with a child being near this? And then if it's yes, then okay, then you're probably fine.
Yeah. I mean, I mounted the Slim Pros to a fence like that, but I put in like steel straps across and screwed them through and bolted them on. But my wall also went to the floor. So I guess for me, I took a level of weight. I was using the fence to basically stop it from falling forward almost. It wasn't actually taking the weight of the wall. So that's another option. Like, you can use a fence as a top heavy kind of thing for yourself, but you want to take that weight to the ground as well. So
Is that a rental at your place?
no, that was a
Well, matters less then, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but I guess in an ideal world, I would build a separate structure for yourself, just to be safe. So, yeah.
So the slim ones though, not weigh a lot less than that.
Yeah, obviously they're going to weigh,
50%? 50 kilos?
I'd say, roughly. It might be. It'll be between 50 and 70, because you think one of these pots. How many square meters are these? 0.6 or 0.7?
Yeah, I think it's 70% of those, I thought. So
Yeah. Oh, we've got some brochures here as well if you want to take them.
So you would, I mean, for that one, you would need quite a sizable structure, but for these ones, you could get away with, say,
Well, feel how heavy that is.
2.4.
That's not super light, but you add soil and plants to that. Yeah.
You get away with putting just a couple of extra posts between your fence posts.
correct. Yeah, and
You
I
wouldn't
guess
have-
you're also
whereas
putting
that one you might.
That's right, and you're putting 2 plants per.
Yeah,
And then your soil media might come into it. You might use a lighter medium, but we're not engineers, so it's
yeah. And then you don't.
We've got to do
you only
some
make
kind of
this
disclaimer.
3 high, don't you?
sorry.
You don't need, for a fence.
Yep.
And then, what, 6 foot fence?
Well, they're 660. Yeah.
1.8 metres.
I think they're 660. Yeah. So that'd take you over that.
Yep.
Or you do 2 and don't have
This side.
one this high. Because you've got ground plants and then
Yeah.
And these can be cut with an axle.
I was just going to ask that.
Yep. So we've got
these can get.
So these here,
chopped here.
We've gone, 8 or 9 kits wide, but then we get to a brick wall, say there, we just cut that edge off, and then that just becomes
On the other side of that
on
side.
the other side of this
Yep.
edge, and then that's now my
Yep.
outer edge now.
Yep.
So and then
So if I wanted only half the height there, just to use 2,
You could cut it.
I could cut that fancy thing off
Yeah.
the
You
back.
you can cut that backing board off, and then you've got a
You
spare
could probably
pot.
remount that.
That pot, depending on how well it
That'd
cuts
work.
for you. The hacksaw is normally okay because it's a finer tooth. It's not going to snap at it. So.
I wonder if they go that way.
And all of these are down accordingly. We've seen them where they've been like these ones as well, and the Slim Pros where they've been staggered. So they've come off the top and then they're going down like a staircase. And then they've put timber like Mervow walling next to that, and then they've got a mirror in there, and then they've kind of gone around all of that as well. So you don't have to be squared up and structured. You can sort of put wall a bit like you could put a 3-piece just in the wall and then nothing, and then have another 3-piece somewhere. So you can just put. You got your hands full this weekend.
May I just ask one question, but I need to draw something up.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be all right?
You have to hold the black text to perfectly flat.
Do you?
Now we're going to do drawings.
Now, we've got a garden.
There you go, look at
and
that.
My husband's put, it comes meow like that. There's a tap there, all right? So we've got one pipe here and one pipe, we've got roses in the middle, and we've got another pipe here to do those roses. So one for these plants and one for the roses. And when you get to here, we just turned it around like that. Well, these don't get done, do they? So, and I've seen some on TV where they've got like a, you know, that's the and there's a connection there and a connection
Yeah, it's
there.
manifolded.
There.
Yep. Okay, do you want to answer
Why
that?
doesn't that work? And why does
So where's your tap in this?
down here?
And it's one piece of pipe just doing the loop.
But
Yes, it was, but now he's cut them off here, and we plug the hose into
do
that
each
and that.
pipe into each hose individually.
Yeah.
So
13 mil?
19.
19 mil?
yeah. So there's a maximum amount of, I guess, depending. This is all subjective to how much plants you've got on there as well. But what happens is if this was a big loop going like that,
Yeah.
it's trying to feed, and it's a high chance that you don't have pressure compensating
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
So if the plant's closest to the tap, we're going to take the water first. Path of least resistance for water. So it's going to take from the closest from the tap. It's going to always go first. When it gets to here, it's then looping and coming back.
Yeah.
So there's, and then I'm assuming it's just ended at some point
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So what they try and do is we come out of our tap here, and we actually put a piece of pipe across like that, and then bring up our pipe separately.
Why is it
Like that. So what happens is it distributes the water straight away out to both parts. So it's not allowing you to start trying to feed all the other plants before it can come back again.
It's like your veins.
Yeah.
You imagine it was just one vein rather than like breaking down from an artery to ventricles to capillaries. Am I getting that right? Does anyone know what I'm... That's right. Do you know what I mean though? Like you have to get
Yeah, it's the same process.
like a highway to back streets. You've got the big roads going and then you're splitting out so you get the most.
That would be a T and a T there.
Right. So does the water come along here and then stop there?
No, it will fill into this line and then circulate and come back. That way you've got, what happens is you fill your lines quicker,
Right.
and then it allows that to fill, and then it will start to drip irrigate.
But if you don't have enough water, that's your problem.
Yeah, I know, that's
And it sounds like that's,
Yeah.
I think, your issue.
Yeah.
So,
So we need to one night, late at night, go out and undo the water tap.
Just buy a rainwater tank and a pump.
Oh, we got a rainwater tank. So we bucket it. We've got it.
I've just got one question.
Thank you.
Not to do with vertical gardens, but irrigation.
That's right.
You could buy that brown stuff that goes under, and it's got little holes in it, and you can put it under your lawns and under your gardens.
Yep.
Does it work?
Did someone else really answer that question?
What I
It does and it doesn't.
time it pops up.
It depends. It's like anything. If you don't do it properly, it won't work.
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess there's...
How do you stop
So the
roots
brown
getting into
drip
it?
tube, that's about a 13 mil
Yes.
diameter. It's got a dripper, say, every 30 or 40 centimetres.
It hasn't even got drippers, it's just got holes in
Yeah,
it.
just
A soaker hose?
Yes,
So a
yes.
soaker hose doesn't work.
No.
Is it brown or black? Not the recycled tyre stuff. And it's just got holes. There's no actual dripper mounted inside it. You sure?
Oh, it might have something inside
Yeah.
it.
That's the dripper.
Normally there's a dripper.
It looks smooth with a hole. There's a boat mounted inside the pipe. You just wouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah, so what happens is the hardware store sells a similar looking product. It's just got a 2 or a 3 litre dripper fixed into it. There's no pressure compensation and there's no anti-siphon in those drippers.
Or copper or copper sulfate.
In them as well. We sell a range of drippers which are anti-siphon, which means when you turn that drip line off, it basically has a valve in it that closes.
Right.
And it
Similar to the drippers.
Stops a vacuum effect of pulling dirt back into the dripper and blocking it, so it closes itself off. And it's got the pressure compensated like the drippers for the Gro-walls, where every dripper is fixed at 1.6 or 2 or 3 litres per hour. So every dripper is going to get the same amount. There's another product which we sell called XR, That's got a copper sulfide.
Copper sulfate impregnated.
Copper sulfate impregnated into the actual dripper itself, inside. And what that does is that stops root intrusion when it's put into a subsurface situation like under lawns. I would also recommend that when you putting it in under soil profiles as well, and it's not sitting on the top. What happens is that root will still want to grow in, but as it does, it hits copper. It burns on the copper, those microfiber roots, and they burn off, and then it self-flushes, and then you're good to go again. They've tested it on almonds. An almond, from what we've been told from an agricultural point of view, almonds are highly, highly aggressive.
And above ground aggressive
root
as well.
Structure across the top and wrapping around things is quite aggressive, so they have tested it in its worst case, and the almonds have all completely closed over these drippers, but they will not go into the hole. So we knew that we were safe. If an almond tree is not going to do it, and kikuyu is probably going to be fine.
So that's why yes and no.
Right.
So there
Because
is drip, again, like polypipe.
Sounds like there's
two dripper pipes
I
and
think
two
this stuff
different things.
came from Bunnings,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it stopped working.
Yeah, so there's levels of product, I guess, from hardware stores that are fine, and they're all fit for a purpose, but you're going to spend the same amount of money on a 50-metre roll of dripper line from Bunnings as you will from an irrigation shop, and you're going to get a better quality dripper inside.
And advice and service.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so. But you'll find that the majority of true turf enthusiasts will choose sprinklers over subsurface drip tube if given the choice for fertiliser application, frost management, a lot of reasons they believe they get better turf.
What did you say then? What was your first?
A lot of sport, like a golf course will never go subsurface, a stadium will never go subsurface. You'll never see Adelaide Oval with subsurface, and these guys are they're the companies that have the money to do it if they wanted to. So true turf enthusiasts still choose sprinklers as the way to water turf. If you got pushed into a position where you had no choice, with like water restrictions like we had in 06, subsurface works if done properly.
Yeah. Obviously, sprinklers, the traditional square area, you've got a sprinkler in each corner. You've got one square, you would have 4 sprinklers. If something goes wrong, you know where you're going to be looking, you're going to look at 4 sprinklers. So you've got, in the same sort of area, you could have 120 metres of drip tube. So where's my leak? Or where's my blockage? Whereas, and then you've got to dig your lawn up, whereas you could just unscrew a sprinkler and deal with that in the corner. You put a granular or a liquid on, you can still wash that in with fertiliser. You guys would know as well, there's benefits, obviously, water uptake through the leaf as well of the plants, more so than just the root system, so it has its benefits, but it still has a place.
So if you have any further questions, we will stick around and you can come and ask us individually for a bit. Alternatively, you can find us on Facebook, email us, come into the shop, whatever is your chosen. Yeah, 8 till 12 on Saturdays. Thanks for having us as well. I really appreciate it.